This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with guitarist and vocalist Paulie Z of the hard rock act ZO2. If I knew absolutely nothing about ZO2, how would you describe the band's music to me?
The music would be modern 70s. It's probably the two words I would use. If I had to go a little bit deeper, I'd say it was like, if I had to take bands, I'd say it's kind of like if you took Zeppelin and Kiss and mixed it with Stone Temple Pilots and Alice in Chains.
Sounds about right after listening to your recent album.
Right? Pretty, I mean, it's got the swagger, right? The swagger and the groove of the 70s and that kind of like songwriting, but definitely, there's a lot of detuned songs, heavy, and some of those more modern. And when I say modern, obviously I'm referencing bands from the 90s. So, I'm like, if anyone's watching this, that's like, in their 20s or teens and they're like, who? Stone Temple, who? That's modern still for me. But at the time it was, when we started writing that stuff, that was like what was present and cool. And, you had Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit, you had Korn, you had all these kind of things when we were shifting and creating that sound. And I loved that stuff too, but I was raised on the 70s rock. And then obviously there's some 80s in there too. But we don't really get a lot of 80s reference. I don't see it either when I listen to it. Sometimes maybe when we see ourselves and some of the stage moves a little bit, but you know what I mean? But I would say it's a 70s and 90s combo.
So before we take a deep dive into the new album, Begin Again, which was released on December 5th through Kibble Records, why don't we talk about how ZO2 formed back in the early 2000s?
Okay, well, my brother, for those that don't know, ZO2 is a trio that consisted of myself on lead vocals and guitar, my brother David, who is no longer with us, on bass and bass and vocals. He sang lead too. All three of us sang lead. I was the main singer. David sang a good amount of songs, and then Joey Casada, our drummer, who also sang lead. And he would have like a song in the set or sing maybe part of a song. So it was cool because my brother and I grew up singing together, right? Like we were doing bands even when we were little kids, and it wasn't even a real band. We put on our mom's boots. It was the famous story we always tell people, and we would throw a concert. We made guitars out of cardboard, and I have pictures of that. I look at it. Mine was cool because I had aluminum foil on it, so it kind of reflected in the light. It's like a Paul Stanley guitar. And so we were always performers at heart when we were young. And then we were in bands. And then and David and I started a band called CO2 we were doing. And that was the time, again, when those grunge bands were really big. And we were just like, we would, up until that, we're just doing old school metal and rock. And we started trying to capture this new sound and mix it in. And I was in a Kiss tribute band called Kiss Nation with Joey. That's how I met Joey in that band. And so we got along great. We had just great chemistry. He was, I recognized within 5 seconds, he's an incredible drummer. I would dare I say one of the best drummers I've ever played with. And I've played with some great drummers, the top of the top in my career. And he just blew me away. But more so on a personal level, we got along. You know what I mean? He didn't do drugs. He didn't drink. He liked comic books and action figures and Kiss. And we were just like, oh my God, you're like a long lost brother. So I said, would you be interested in playing with my brother and I in our original band? Because our head friend drummer left. I said, sure. Like, you didn't really have anything else going on outside of that tribute. And that's how it started. And once we played, man, it's, you know how it is, George. Like, you hear it from bands all the time. You can't buy chemistry. All the money in the world, you cannot buy chemistry, just like love, right? In a relationship. And it was there, man. It was like oozing out of the room. It was like, we got to do something with this. And that's how it started, from just like, hey, you want to come jam with my brother and I? We got some songs. It was like, yeah. And that was it. And then it took off.
So I think the crazy twist in your story is that you guys were playing children's parties and doing children's
Yeah.
songs in order to finance your hard rock dreams at night.
Still do. although I don't do it to finance, though. That's the good thing. I can say, yeah, luckily now I don't have to do, I do well enough in all of the areas of my life where I don't have to do anything specifically to finance my living, which is great. It's a beautiful thing. But at the time, yes, we were doing kids' parties. I started it. And I'll tell you the quick story. I basically needed a job. I went to LaGuardia High School, which is an art school. So all my friends were artists in some way, musicians, artists, dancers, whatever. A lot of my friends were working at the Children's Museum of Manhattan in New York, and not necessarily doing music, but like either they were art teachers or whatever. And I needed a job. I just, I was out of college. I was like, well, I need a job. And I asked my friends, can you hook me up? So they said, yeah, let me see what I could do. So my friend hooked me up with an interview. Now I went to school for art. So I thought I was interviewing for an art teacher, right? And these little kids, we're talking toddlers, like 2, 3, 4. They come in the gym. The parents come in, they run around. And she's like, no, we don't need an art teacher, but we really could use a music person. And she goes, and I saw on your resume you sing and play guitar. And I'm like, yeah. But I'm thinking in my head, like, yeah, Kiss and Iron Maiden. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can I sing the Trooper for these kids? I mean, how would that go over? And she said, well, we could hire you for that if you think you can do like the Wheels on the Bus and Itsy Bitsy Spider, that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can learn it, sure. So that's it. So I got that job. But here's the funny thing, it was first just a job, but I rocked. It was a God-given gift that I was like, this is something I'm really good at. And I had no idea. I just had no idea until I started doing it. All of a sudden, the shows that I was doing, the 15, 20 minute segments throughout the day were packed. It was like sold out. You couldn't get in. Yeah, I swear. And it was like, okay, this is something I could do too in my life. And then I literally, little by little, I brought in my brother, and then we became the Z Brothers. And then we brought Joey in. And yeah, we started doing parties and concerts. We were doing, we were the biggest kids entertainers in New York at that time for a while. And that's how we actually got the TV show, at a kids party. Isn't that funny?
And the TV show you're talking about is Z-Rock. It was on IFC for a couple of years back in 2008, 2009. This was a scripted reality show, right?
They call it semi-scripted, is what they call it, yeah. There wasn't a real script. It was bullet points of what the scene would be like. Like if, let's say, the scene is me doing an interview with you on KNAC, right? And then you say something that that I don't like, right? And then I kind of question you on it, and then we get into a big fight, whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's the bullet point, but how you and I would get there is up to us. So obviously they surrounded us with incredible talent because we weren't actors. We were just playing ourselves and just being our normal goofy selves. But they put us around, Joan Rivers was on the show, Gilbert Gottfried, Jay Okerson. I mean, just incredible people. And then we had to improv the scene. But that's how we got the TV show. It was through a dad that we met at a kids party who happened to work for William Morris. It's just really, it's a fascinating story.
So it was more like a Christopher Guest movie, like Best in Show or Mighty Wind, where they have their little bullet points and they're all improv.
Basically, yes, exactly. Yeah. Curb Your Enthusiasm, that kind of thing. Yeah, which we were very big fans of. You know what I mean? Obviously, Spinal Tap, we loved. So we knew that structure pretty well. We weren't trained in any way, and I think the secret to it, because people would say, oh, but you guys were really good at that. Like, were you actors? And I said, no, you got to understand the reason it worked was because we were being ourselves, right? Like if I had to be a fictitious singer in a fictitious band, I don't think it would have worked. But we were ourselves and we were together was another factor that people don't realize. When the three of us were together, we had sort of an invincible shield around us because we protected each other, it's not something we talked about, but we had the chemistry that we had from the road that was always with us in any situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So ZO2 released a few albums during that time period. You had Tuesdays and Thursdays in 2004, Ain't It Beautiful in 2007, Casino Logic in 2009. Are these releases that you put out yourself, or did you have a label at the time?
No, first album was all by ourselves. My brother and I just basically maxing out credit cards. and I got to give credit to where credit is due. Our producer at the time who then became our manager, Bob Held, he's the one who convinced us to fund the first album fully, though, not like a demo or whatever. And first of all, we thought he was out of his mind. It's like, are you crazy? We're kids. We're like, we don't have that kind of, there's like too many zeros on that, that proposal that you have there. But he made a good point, and this is something advice I would give to anyone, and it was a life-changing advice. He said, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why would you expect anyone else to? And that was it. That's all we had to hear. We said, okay, done, let's do it. So we went in, yeah, we financed that album, that first album was like 30 grand. You know, and think about, but like when you're like in your mid-20s, broke and like just doing job, like singing The Wheels on the Bus for a living, that was a lot of money. You know, and he produced it and did a killer job. And he was friends with the guys in Kiss, and that's how we got the Kiss tour. I don't know if that's a line item if you want to talk about later, but that's how we got it because of that record. So it showed us, it was like proof that if you go all out and you invest in yourself up front and do it, you know, go fully 100%, that's when you'll manifest other opportunities. And so that one was completely independent. The second one we did, but then when we had the TV show, we got signed to a small record label called Riker Hill Records. And then they kind of, like we had already recorded it, but then they, you know, signed us. And then I think, reimbursed us or something like that. But so then they had that record, and then they funded no, they were supposed to fund the third one, and they went under. So we wound up funding the third one too. So basically, in essence, we funded everything, even though we did have a label the whole time, you know. And yeah, and we were the only band, I think at that point, I don't know if that changed, but up to that point, I think we were the only unsigned band that ever toured with Kiss, which is a kind of a cool trivia thing.
I think it's also cool that you toured with more than just Kiss. You toured with Sammy Hagar and Scorpions and Twisted Sister and Alice Cooper and a lot of heavyweights. But I mean, obviously, Kiss might have been the biggest act that you toured with. So that album scored you that deal. How did the tour go?
Oh my God, it was great. Well, it was Kiss Poison, first of all. So it was 2 for 1. It was Kiss Poison and ZO2. Can you imagine? And yeah, we thought we would have 1 or 2 shows because he was friends with them. And he said in the past, he's been able to get some of the bands that he's worked with a show or 2 in their area, you know. So we're thinking East Coast, maybe we get Jones Beach or whatever. But when he showed them the album, what happened was Brides of Destruction, Nikki Sixx's band at the time, was supposed to do the whole tour and dropped out for, I don't know why, but dropped out like 6 weeks before the tour. So it was just a perfect storm because he had just showed him this album, you know, and Paul heard the album and was very impressed. He's like, wow, this is really good. And he's like, well, we have 9 weeks of shows with no opening band. You know, do your boys want to do it? They'd have to get themselves to every show and whatever. And he goes, I'm pretty sure they will. Let me ask. And check this out. When he called me, I was in the middle of one of those music classes. I must have been in the middle of, if you're happy and you know it, and I get a phone call me now, ASAP, urgent. And I was like, I'll be right back. I need a break. Go outside. He goes, what are you doing for the next 9 weeks of your life? And I said, teaching? I don't know. What are we doing? And he said, you want to open for Kiss? And I screamed. This is the middle of Manhattan. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I'm like, hang on one second. I'm like, woohoo! Because you got to understand, it wasn't just it was a big band. It could have been, you know, Guns N' Roses. It could have been AC/DC. The 3 of us, as I can see on your wall, you're a Kiss fan. The 3 of us were Kiss fanatics. Fanatics. You know what I mean? I went to every convention. I had the pinball machine. I had a collection that would blow your mind. Fanatical. You know what I mean? So there's no greater, there's like no greater achievement for a band than to tour with their heroes. So it was life-changing. And the tour, to answer your question, sorry, the tour went great. They loved us. We became friendly with them and Poison. And every single night we had a standing ovation, sold a ton of merch. And that's what really launched our career. You know, like because people know traditionally that Kiss fans can be pretty tough on opening bands. It's kind of known. And we were warned. We're like, don't Don't feel bad if you get booed. It happens. It's sort of known. And every single night, with the exception of some of the bigger cities, which is weird, even in our hometown, it's kind of weird. Just the big cities, they were like, they were like, they're too cool to get out of their seats. But every other place, standing ovation. It was quite exhilarating.
I saw that you attended the last show in Madison Square Garden. Do you really think this is the end of Kiss? And do you think the avatars are going to really take over their spot?
Who knows? But if I had to bet, I think so. And the only reason I think so is because I'm doing the math, like age-wise. Like when they did the farewell tour in 2000, like you got to think about where they were in their life personally, right? I feel like there was no reason for them to really stop. They could keep going. To me, I don't know. Even when I saw Gene, he put his 100% in, but physically tired. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot to do, especially these guys. Not like, Springsteen, who puts on a great show too. I can see him go until he's 90, until they bury him, right? He's not wearing gear and stuff. Also, Paul's voice, we have to be honest. And again, growing up, he was my idol, but I mean, the guy can't sing. He can barely talk. I feel like they should have stopped a while ago, personally. But, he still puts on a great show. Whether he's lip sync or not, that's up to him. But I think so, because I think they realize the limitations now of what they can do. And the Avatar, whether you like it or not, I think it's a great idea. I just don't appreciate that they presented it to us when they did. Like they missed a big opportunity to really give closure to like the fans. And Bruce Kulick said it perfectly in an interview, because Bruce is just like the ultimate mensch, right? Like you can't not love Bruce. But he said it perfectly. He said he feels like Kiss was focused more on the future of the band than the past. That night and that tour was about what's the next step, right? And that was their focus versus let's have some closure on everything that led up to that point. And I think everyone in the venue was in that mind frame, because none of the new fans, kids and whatever, they're not paying the kind of money we paid for those tickets. Let's not get into that. But they're not flying in. They're not like that whole city and that whole venue was buzzing with people that grew up on Kiss. And I think everyone just wanted that, like, when you watch a TV show and you get the series finale. You want that series finale that makes you feel, oh, that's good. You don't want the one that's like, what? Really? Like The Sopranos, how everybody felt with The Sopranos, they went crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do think the Avatars will actually, if they can do it right, I think it's a great idea, actually, especially for Kiss. I mean, I think other bands are going to go, I think artists are going to do that anyway. So that if anything, they're sort of ahead of their time. So kudos for them for putting it out there. I think it can be very cool. I just don't think the timing was great.
You mentioned earlier that your brother David has since passed on. It was a tragic car accident back in 2019, but to honor his memory, 2017, my mistake.
No.
To honor his memory, you started the David Z Foundation, which brings music to underprivileged kids. So if you want to talk about the foundation and what they do.
Yeah, thank you. Well, prior to his accident, I had started a nonprofit in New York that he was involved with that was tied into ZO2, and it was called Rock Asylum Foundation initially. And I got my 501c3, and it was a legit nonprofit. So we were doing that already. And then when I moved to LA, I put it aside for a while. I had my own little life stuff that was going on. I had to restart my life. So I put it aside. I figured, when I'm older, I'll do that later. That's something I can do, down the line. But when he was killed, it just, I was doing these fundraisers online, GoFundMe's, and then I take the money and then just give it directly to the school. So I started an endowment for him at Brooklyn College, which is where he went. And then I would just donate it to this school, that school. But I felt like it was just like a one and done. I'd spend all this time raising money. Everyone was very supportive. And then I did it, and then that was it. And it's really when the pandemic happened and had all this time now, that was the kind of the benefit of the lockdown in some ways, is that it gave people time to reevaluate their life, their priorities, maybe start some new things. And that's one of the things I just felt like, you know what? I want to get back into the philanthropic aspect of my life, but change the name and focus it now on David being the source of my influence and continuing the work. And that's what I did. And I put a board of directors together, and I just started it up, got a logo, got everything fresh, same 501c3, and then it just took off. I mean, literally, like within just a couple of years, we're just doing it now, 3 years, 4 years. And we've got 7. We just found out we won 2 more awards. I can't say what they are yet because they're being announced in a couple of weeks. But we just won 2 more, and that's like our 7th award. And like these are like real awards, not like local, like Tony's Pizza Shop best video, best song of the neighborhood. These are like international awards that are legit, and it's amazing. It's really fulfilling. It's therapeutic for me, personally. But it's great because it's the work we've been doing our whole lives. It's not like something I woke up and say, hey, I want to start helping kids. I've been working with kids my whole life, as far as I can remember, and so was David. So it continues that legacy and grows it. Now people all over the world, in Africa, Malaysia, Israel, Argentina, Hong Kong, they know David's name. They don't know who he is, maybe. They never knew who he was, but they know David Z Foundation. That name is there, and they know they got that music program, or their life was somehow changed for a brief moment because of some guy named David Z.
That's wonderful, actually. ZO2 remained dormant for about 14 years, understandably so. David was a big part of the band. What inspired you to start things back up again?
Well, one man, believe it or not, Mark Mendoza. Yeah, isn't that funny? I give all the credit to Mark. Mark Mendoza, been a long-term friend. Obviously, we toured with them back in the day, became friends with the whole band. D, Mark, Eddie, like the whole band has been super supportive of all the things we've done, especially with the foundation. And Mark had always participated in in our events. And he told me just off the cuff one day, he goes, I'm not going to do a Mark impression right now, but he's like, boy, he's a big, biker guy. Boy, if you and Joey ever wanted to do a ZO2 set just for fun or to raise money, whatever, just putting it out there, he goes, I'd be honored to play with you guys. I would do the set with you guys. I'd love it. He was a fan of the music. He wasn't that he was just helping us. He actually really liked the music, because he's a product of the 70s and stuff. He loved that stuff. And I was shocked. Like, I was just like, this is a big legendary rock star saying that he would be willing to play my songs on stage with us, right next to us. So it was like, an offer I couldn't refuse. You know what I mean? How do I say no to something like that? Even if it was just one time. So I used to host and produce a thing called Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey Go-Go every week for 7.5 years. And then I started doing it in New York, trying to build it up in New York. And then after the foundation was started, when I was doing them in New York, I kind of made them benefit shows, right? So that was the tie-in. So for my birthday, it was literally a week before the lockdown, I had a jam, and I said, you know what would be cool for my birthday? What if we did the return of ZO2, just like a one-time, show with Mark? So that's what we did. And he learned the material. And, he's in New York and I'm in LA. It was very challenging with one rehearsal. It was stressful in that sense. But I don't think it mattered because I don't know that anyone was necessarily there to pick it apart. It was more of that we were on stage and Joey and I were together. There's Mark, and we're playing these songs. And yeah, we did it. And it was awesome. It was weird for me looking and not seeing David. It was weird. I think I had emotionally, it was a very challenging thing to do. So I wasn't smiling most of the time. A lot of people like, you would never smile. It's like, well, it was not easy to do. But people loved it. At the end, we were just like, well, it felt so good. Joey and I, our chemistry was there. And that's what started it. And from there, people kept asking, are you going to keep doing it? Are you going to do another one? What are you going to do? And then we said, Joey and I talked about it. And we said, let's do this. Yeah, let's do it. We're both parents. We've got little kids. Well, his kids are older. I've got a 3-month-old baby and a 4-year-old son. So, it's not like we can necessarily go on a tour now and be gone forever. But we're like, but can we put out new music? Can we play shows and just kind of bring it back? And we said, yeah, let's do it. The only thing is, we needed to find a bass player, one that lived in LA, because so that he and I can practice and really get and someone who wasn't going to who wasn't like a rock and roll legend, that was going to overshadow us, because we might as well change the name for the band to, Mark Mendoza and two knuckleheads from Brooklyn, that would, Mendoza and the Monkeys. So I feel like that was another thing, is finding the right person who kind of fit in. And also Mark doesn't sing, which is huge, right? David sang all the harmonies, 3-part harmonies. So we found, and Sean McNabb is one of the bass players I play with a lot in LA at the Jam. And you know Sean, right?
Yes, from DOKKEN.
Yeah. Yeah, from DOKKEN, from the Lynch, and from a bunch of things, and just all around perfect fit. I mean, sings, plays, looks the part, right? Moves on stage good guy. So, just fits in. He gets our humor. Joey and I, Z-Rock, obviously, if you've seen Z-Rock, we have a certain brand of humor, right? The New York humor. He gets it, he fits in. And I think that's what was the key for us to continue. So Mark was the reason it started, and I'll forever be grateful for him for relighting that pilot light. And then getting Sean in was like, okay, we can do this now. And there you go. And that's why the album and the title song is Begin Again, because that's what we're doing.
And the album Begin Again is a fantastic 27 song collection that kind of mixes where you're heading and where you were, a celebration of the new with a respectful nod to the past, you guys describe it as. It's new songs and unreleased material. It wasn't very clear which is which when it comes to this collection. Is disc 1 new material, disc 2 old material?
You know what? Figure it out. Who cares? I don't know. Well, you know why? Because I figured like when we were putting it together, we said, well, old fans that are loyal, fans of ZO2, that if you're already a ZO2 fan, you'll know, right? You'll know the difference, right? Like, so if Kiss put something out, like any Kiss fan would know, oh, that's a different remix of that song. Like, you just know, right? Because you know the stuff. And then anyone who's new, or maybe it was a casual fan or new, what's the difference at that point? I feel like just listen to the music. Who cares if it was released, not released? If you've never heard it, right, just listen and enjoy it. If you like it, become a fan, like support the band and come to the shows and play it on your car ride to work. So we didn't want to be too specific of like, I mean, I think it does say in the booklet though, if you read it, it does say released on this song, previous unreleased. So I think there is some indication, but we didn't really want to shine a light on that. We just wanted it to be an anthology and overview of, like you said, where we came from, where we are going, and everything in between. And listen, a big kudos to, you mentioned it earlier, Kivel Records. Like, we couldn't have done this really. I mean, look, we could have put the music out on our own. We could have put a single out and on Spotify. We could have done that on our own. And initially that's what I wanted to do. And Joey convinced me, said, no, listen, it'd be great if we had some help. And John Kivel, he goes back with the band. We have history from back in the East Coast. So that it's not like some random company we worked with, and they've been doing it for 25 years. They're very specific on what they do. And, God bless him. He gets it with the packaging. I mean, look at the artwork. You get a button, you get a sticker. I mean, the glossy, high gloss paper. I mean, the packaging alone is worth it. The poly bag that it comes in. Did you get that? All that stuff?
I don't have a physical copy, but I saw everything that it was
about. Okay. Yeah. And people going crazy. They're telling us, oh my God, I got it in the mail. This is so cool. And that's what we're about. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who's listening to CDs at this point? A lot of people don't even have a CD player, but I would still buy a CD just for that collectible, physical, tangible. So if someone's gonna pay money for something, give it to them. Don't give them some crappy artwork with with nothing in the middle. Go all out, and that's what Kivel did. And I think that was another key to the puzzle, is having a label that's supporting it. And they gave us the budget to do that video. I don't know if you saw the video, but right from the beginning again, I don't know that we would have done that on our own. You know what I'm saying? Like we may or may not have, but we have the support now of a label. who gets it. They're like, let's do this, let's do that. And we'll say, okay, let's do it. So now we're excited. You know what I mean? Now like the machine is starting to rev up again.
So I'm pretty sure the song "Begin Again" is a new composition. So if you want to talk, that's pretty much the song of where you were and where you're headed, right?
Yeah. And to be completely honest, Begin Again and Live Today are like kind of the two songs that we'd say are the new songs, but they're technically not like brand new because we did have them at the end of ZO2 before we took our hiatus, and we did play them a couple of times. So Beginning Again was a song that was supposed to be kind of like on the next record. And it was written actually about, when I wrote it, it was when I got divorced. It was written about that. And then it just stayed on the shelf for a while. So when David was killed and we decided to put it out and we said, let's make this the single, I rewrote it. A lot of it's the same, the melodies and everything, but I rewrote the lyrics to be about him and beginning again as a band, but also personally. I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, it really was like having to figure out how to start my life over again in some ways, because we were so close. Unless you knew us, you really don't understand. It's hard to explain how close he and I were. I can't even imagine. I couldn't at the time imagine living without him. So it took a while to figure that out. So that's the new song, because now it is, well, because we never had a recording of it. It's new lyrics. Now we have Sean on bass. I had to create a solo because I was just kind of jamming back in the day. So that's the one. And Live Today will be the next one, probably the next single that we put out. And yeah, we're really, really, I have to say, really proud of it. And that's another thing. I don't know that we would have done it had we not had a strong enough song to lead the charge. If we had a B-side, like a song that was just kind of a cliche rock song, I don't know. I don't know if I would have been comfortable doing it, But you need something that just like really kicks the doors down and says, we're back and here we go. And we remember when we did play the few times we did, it got a lot of good reactions back in the day, and you trust your gut. I listened to it, so I was like, no, this song has it, So that was another thing that kind of pushed us to move forward. We had that strong song to lead the charge.
Are you planning to eventually make the album available on streaming, or you want this to be old school? It's just on this CD. You got to come to the shows. You got to buy the CD.
No, because that wouldn't be fair, to a lot of people who can't come to the shows, or people that don't want to buy a CD. I mean, I think what we will eventually put it on. We just don't want to do it right away because we really would like people to consider buying the CD. Even if you don't have it, I still buy CDs from friends of mine or bands to support them. And I don't have a CD player. I don't even know. I could even play it if I wanted to, but I don't care. I buy the CD, I look through it, I touch it, I feel it. And to me, that's my way of supporting and connecting. And then I have it there. It's like, it's no different than like having a cool piece of art on the wall or, like a knickknack on your shelf. To me, it's something that I respect. And again, that's why I feel like if you're gonna ask someone to buy your CD, please put a little time and love into making that CD package. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than me opening a CD. I buy, some friend's band or whatever. I open it up and it's like, I open the thing up. There's nothing. Like the pictures are awful. I open it. There's no booklet. There's nothing. And I'm just like, really? You toss it like that. And then there's other CDs and I'm just like, okay, this was worth the money. And I save them. Even whether I play them or not, I save them. And a lot of people say they still listen to it, like in their cars. I get a lot of people that say, oh yeah, man, your CDs. So I think that's the answer to your question, is we just kind of want to encourage people to get that first, but then yes, eventually we'll get it up on streaming and then that'll be available too.
ZO2 is known for their artwork as well as their music. You sort of have this pin-up theme that goes from album to album. So is there a specific origin of that?
Well, originally it was supposed to be me as the pinup on those covers, but yeah, I got outvoted. No, not really. I remember when I'm the art director for the band. I went to art school. I think I told you earlier in the interview. I went to LaGuardia High School in New York and then School of Visual Arts. So it was like serious art school. It wasn't like as a hobby. Those were the two kind of like biggest art schools you can go to. So for me, that was a big part of what I did, and what I still do is the visual, right? Because that's what I spend my time doing. And I remember we had a couple of different ideas, and the reason we went with that theme on the first record was because our rehearsal days were Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those were the days we rehearsed. And then we came up with that because that's when we wrote the songs, were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So when we had the name of the album, I had this idea of like, oh, what if it was like a calendar with a pinup girl or something? And they said, okay, mock it up, let's see. And then I found that Gil Elfgren painting, and they loved it. And a lot of people don't realize this, but we had the booklets made so that you flip it up like a calendar. And we had to pay extra for them to hand insert the booklet the wrong way with the staples on top. So there's a lot of CDs. There was one pressing where they did it wrong. They forgot. And so you have the artwork sideways, and we were just like, ah. But if you get the copy and it's put in the right way, you open it up and you pull it out and the staples are on top. And again, that was another little cool thing that people were like, oh, that's cool. And you flip it and it was a calendar of that year, and the lyrics were over, each page had the lyrics. And so then I think when we went for the second one, we kind of just decided people loved the artwork. And we just said, what if we stick to this as our theme, kind of like Iron Maiden has Eddie, and like, as a mascot, but instead of some skeleton monster, or some dragon, or so, what like all these rock bands have, we're like, what if we go for some really traditional, sexy girl? Can't go wrong with that. And then, but make her a ZO2 fan by putting a tattoo or wearing a chain, and that became our theme. With this one, though, Begin Again, we weren't sure what to do because we didn't want to just keep doing the same thing, because obviously it's not the same band and we're moving in a different direction. And I had this idea of like having a younger, more modern girl and somewhat showing her the past, but showing that she's almost walking away, retiring. And Gabriel Connor, who did the artwork for us and the video too, is just a genius. He just knocked it out of the park. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, grand slam. That album cover, right? And the inside, I don't know if you've seen the booklet, and it's a gallery with all the pictures of us throughout our career. But just grand slam. You see the young girl. She's got the ZO2 necklace. She's looking to the side as if she's walking out, and it's this perfect transition artwork. So very happy.
Is ZO2 planning on playing some live performances in support of this particular album? I know you did some prior to the album's release.
Yeah. Yes, we are. We don't have a lot yet coming up because, again, the machine is just starting, and I know people are excited. We're excited, but this was, something that came out of just nowhere for us, and here it is, and then we're like, okay, we got to get this thing going again, and and to be honest, we're not going to tour. I can't, again, we have kids. We're in a different part of our life. I'm not going to get on a bus and go for weeks out at a time. But we're focusing more on trying to play shows that are like just shows that make sense. You know what I mean? Like if we can get to markets and do a run, a small run, that'd be great. If we can do festivals, opening here, opening there, headlining here, headlining there. So we're trying to dare I say, cherry pick or be smart, strategic. I really wouldn't say cherry pick necessarily because we want to play a lot, but we have to be strategic in when and how we play. But yeah, that's where we live, live. I mean, live is everything. To see a ZO2 show is to really understand ZO2, So we're looking forward to it, and we're with the help of the label, looking for those opportunities.
So what you're saying is you'll be playing the label's next festival later in 2024, right?
We would have played at this festival. Yeah, we would have, but I was already booked because I actually counted. Someone asked me the other day, I have 9 active bands right now. So yeah, because ZO2, my own solo stuff, which I know it's not that I play out, but I am writing and recording music and, get licensed and stuff. So that's an active project. And then 7 tribute bands, and I have a Queen, Zeppelin, Deep Purple, launching a Journey one this year, Chris Cornell, and Alice in Chains, and they're all working. The Queen one is working nonstop, And actually, so much so that's the reason I stopped singing with Sweet. I don't know if you knew that I was singing with Sweet for a few years too. You didn't know that?
No.
Ah, yes, I was singing right after David was killed. A couple months later, I got a call to be the singer of Sweet. You know, the Sweet, like
Andy
the
Scott.
not Andy Scott, because Andy's on in England.
Oh, he's
Uh,
an Andy Scott suite. That's right.
that's it, right. So he has Sweet on that side. Legally, he's Sweet on there, and North American Sweet was with Steve Priest.
That's
So right, and I sang with Steve and with Sweet, legit, for a little over 3 years until he passed. He passed of pneumonia during COVID, and then my Queen band, Bohemian Queens, started revving up, and we just booked like crazy. And they look at my calendar and they're like, this is not going to work, and at that time I knew I think I felt like it was time to split anyway, because without Steve, I felt a little, weird doing it for me personally, like not seeing him there. We had a really good rapport on stage two. We had this whole kind of Abbott and Costello routine. So for me, it was weird. So it just naturally we went, we stayed friends and everything. But yeah, so Bohemian Queen, I believe we had a show, and that's why we couldn't do the Kivel Festival. So hopefully this year and moving forward, we'll be able to do that. Because now I got to make room on my calendar. I'm telling the guys, all the other bands are like, ZO2's back, baby. So be prepared for some blackout dates on my calendar.
Have you started writing new material for the next ZO2 album?
Not writing per se, but any songwriter will tell you you're always writing. Like literally, as we're talking right now, like I have a melody in my head. I have to go record on my phone when we're done. It's like it's never ending. So constantly, I would say instead of saying writing, I'm starting to now be more aware of the ideas that I have and ideas that I've had, going back into riffs and things that would have been on the next CO2 record, and then new things since then, right? Because the music landscape has changed so much. I'm constantly listening to modern stuff too, so that I'm like, oh, what can I take from, and anything, like what can I take from Imagine Dragons? What can I pull? What can I learn from Dua Lipa? What can I learn from Post Malone? I mean, you wouldn't think that this stuff has any place in rock, but I would say 100% wrong. Like, the more influences you have, and the more you can just pull this and that and bring in, that's when you can create something unique. You know what I mean? Because you have more to work with, more ingredients. So I would say I'm in that phase now where I'm starting to think, okay, start pulling these songs in, but I haven't sat down yet and, write them out or arrange them and get them ready for prep. I think we're close, getting ready for that, but not just yet. Remember, I just had a baby too, so I just trying to find time to sleep. How about that? That's my priority. Right? I'm just trying to function, let alone write another album. But we're close. I'm getting prepared for that.
Awesome. Those are all the questions I have for you today, Paulie. The new ZO2 album is Begin Again. It's out now on Kivel Records. Fantastic album. I enjoyed it, and I wish you the best of luck with everything. And thank you for talking to KNAC today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, and now I will ask everyone if to just please go check it out. And also the foundation, if you don't mind me plugging that again, like that was a big thing that David was very much into, and ZO2. And so if you can check that out, it's the davidzfoundation.org, and just see some of the stuff we were doing, because everything ZO2 is going to do is going to be plugged into that, moving forward anyway. So love for people to just kind of see the impact that we have. I think they'll be very proud.
Absolutely. You got a lot to be proud of, man.